All right, so the red light is lit, so we must be actually recording. This is Winnie Anderson. Welcome to the after show for Let's Talk Tech. This is the live episode where we go into more detail around the topic for the week, and this week's show was all about getting stuff done with implementation expert Susan Weeks. So, hey, Susan.
Hello. Hello from a cold East Yorkshire in England.
I was just going to say, yeah, Susan, I'll tell you, the miracle of technology. I was chatting with another friend who is actually the Blab queen, Gail Turner Brown. All things Blab, she is on it, and she's a great production manager and event manager as well. And we were talking about how even 15 years ago, if somebody said, "Oh, I have a friend, but I've never actually met them live," right? They're online. We used to think, "Oh, sure, you have a friend," right? Like they're imaginary friends or something. But Gail was saying that she has deeper relationships with her virtual friends than she does with some of the live people that she knows. So, and I think that is a testament to how much technology has become an ingrained part of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right. So I don't even know how we met now. Do you know? Do you remember?
Oh, it's a long time ago now. I think it's when we did that VA classroom traffic geyser thing.
That's it.
And that was in 2009. Oh, that's scary.
God, that is scary. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
or 2010. Right. Anyway, it's about 5 or 6 years ago, Winnie, anyway.
And I think it's rapidly closing in on 7. So yes, it has been a long time. And through, again, the miracle of technology and social media, we've stayed connected. And Susan is one of those virtual people who I just love. So when I was planning the show, the podcast, Let's Talk Tech, Susan was one. I probably never told you this. Susan was one of the people who I first thought of that I wanted to have on the show because I know she has an IT background, which, is fabulous. She can explain it, right? Which often people with a tech background really can't explain it for us non-techies. So that's really nice. And she's done this great job of creating this whole virtual business for herself, really leveraging her skills. So, Susan, why don't you just let you introduce yourself and give a little summary about what you did, what you were doing on your own, and how you're now transitioning into this latest iteration of your business.
Oh, well, it all started when I was a mainframe computer programmer. And at Nissan, the car factory in the Northeast that had just set up. So I started out life with green screen terminals and lots of gobbledygook programming systems. Yeah.
Wow.
And so started to get involved. Obviously, you're running projects. You're trying to estimate how long something's going to take. 20 odd years later, it's still difficult. There's no magic answer to that at all. We'll come back to that one later.
Yes, we will, because that's actually one of the issues I wanted to address with you. So then you went out on your own, and how did you figure out that you would be a virtual assistant? How did you start packaging those skills?
The route to that was obviously I worked my way through the kind of traditional role through programming and team leader and project manager and those kind of things. Then went and joined a startup, kind of headhunted with a group of friends, where we then started providing outsourcing solutions. And we started off with a flat structure. Anyway, that lasted about 4 months, and then I was asked to be a team leader. But I was organising our client staff, which wasn't quite how it was going to be. Originally, they all thought they would be organising us. So there was me organising the client staff. And so we went, and I moved into training. And I've always kind of tried to move things along anyway. But, that kind of stressful corporate life, and I guess really I recognise now I was pretty burnt out. There was professional issues, personal issues as well. So I just decided enough, and I just stopped my job. And went off, had a plan to go and travel around the world and do volunteer work, and then discovered I was pregnant, so that was amusing. So had to change my plans again. And when my sort of short circuit finished up living in France, and when my son was 5 and started going to school, then I thought, okay, what am I going to do for a job? And the choice has been an expat living in France, where go to the chicken factory or the supermarket. And that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So I thought, come on, dig your experience back out again. And by this time, technology had moved on, hadn't it? So this thing called the internet was far better than it ever had been. And, it was possible to start learning adapting and creating a job on the internet. So a lot of research and say VA Classroom I found was the main kind of catalyst for me learning the online skills I needed 7, 8, 9 years ago now. And that's how I've kind of moved forward. And iteration was to develop the niche even further and go into podcasting, which obviously you're there as well. So our paths have collided again, haven't they? With podcasting?
Yeah, they really have. And funny how much of our background and I guess we've never really even talked about it in depth, but we have many parallels in our background. I haven't lived in a foreign country, but I've lived out in another state for a job, and I felt the same thing. I felt this. I was really stressed out. I was burnt out with what I did. My company. I worked for a casino hotel at the time in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and my company had invested. They had expanded rapidly in the last few years I was with them, and they had invested heavily in creating this beautiful virtual training center. They had bought office space, or I guess were leasing office space in an old school building that had been rehabbed to house offices, which I thought was a brilliant use of the space.
Yeah, cool.
So they take over one whole floor, and they took a classroom and literally turned it into a virtual classroom. They had this massive projection screen and these built-in TVs, and they were the really top of the line stuff.
That's a fortune, yeah.
And never used it.
Oh no. Disaster.
Now, why, okay, so you have me and you want to have me go and teach the courses that I've designed and that my staff has designed and teach them to these sister locations. Why would you fly me? Why wouldn't you have me So that kind of lack of logic in corporate life made me insane.
Yes.
And when I was told that it doesn't matter whether you want to teach on camera or you don't want to teach, you're going. And that's when I said, no, I'm not. I got to go.
Yeah.
So I left and I went to the American Red Cross after that. But enough about me. Let's get into this subject, because this topic is such a big one, and I know that you mentioned several times on the episodes that that's an eye roller, that whatever we're talking about, people will be like, oh God, I don't want to hear this. So I really want to talk about this. Why we know this stuff cognitively, or we can buy into it cognitively, but we resist it so rapidly and so passionately. And you made a really great point on one of the episodes, which you can find part 1, by the way, at the letstalktechshow.com/getstuffdone part 1, and that's the number 1. And that'll get you to the first half of this 2-part episode that we did together. You mentioned that people, I know you don't want to hear about that, or because that's your corporate life. Can you talk a little bit about that, about this mindset that people have that resists anything from their corporate life as if all of it was bad?
Yeah. It's an interesting one, and it's an interesting point that you've just brought out, because I did say that a lot, didn't I? Don't roll your eyes, and here we go again, and it's a shame actually that a lot of the things that are kind of brought out in corporate life have branded themselves on our heads that, this is a bad thing. And really thinking about it, it's not the thing that was bad. It was how it was implemented, wasn't it? It's like, people, you were told you're going to do that. And it's like, oh, no, I just please don't make me do something like that. And it was just things that implemented in a silly way, I think. And that is such a shame because, you know, we've both been through similar kinds of stories, you know, as it kind of turns out. But I think what we need to do is take the good parts. A lot of the processes are still very valid for us as, you know, kind of online entrepreneurs. It's not, it feels like it's like little bubbles sometimes, doesn't it? It's like not the real world, and it's like not real people, and people are not our real friends, but it is real. And we take those best bits out of it. There's a lot of good points still in there. So, yeah.
I think that's a great point. I think that, because I actually had a client tell me this to her face. We were working on her sales process and her whole flow, right? Her funnel, as we call it. And she could not give me specific details about her numbers. She couldn't give me specifics about how many conversations she had or where in the process it broke down. And I said, don't you keep track, even in your calendar? You know, you've obviously write your appointments down. Don't you keep track of that stuff? And she said, no, I don't. She said, and I don't, this will scare you, I don't write my appointments down. And of course, you know, God bless her that she could remember that she's got appointments, you know, but you know, you alluded to this, that your brain just at some point gets overflowing. And when I asked her why, she said, because I had to do stupid stuff like that when I worked in corporate life, and I don't want to have to do it now.
Yeah.
And you know, as I was getting ready today and putting on my makeup, thinking about what we talked about and this conversation, and one of the issues that you recommend to help people become more mindful of their time is to actually track your time. Whether you use an online tool or you just keep a notebook next to you and you jot things down during the day, track your time. And I remember the first time that I was told I had to track my time. When I got my job at the casino, I worked for a woman who was impossible. That's the nicest way I can put it. She was beastly. Okay. She had a lot of issues. One of the things that she made us do was weekly reports. Now, she had me and one other person. Like, come on, really? I have to keep a report. So, and I had to keep a report in 15-minute increments. And so it wasn't even that I could write down, well, from 1 to 2, I researched that course that I'm teaching, or from 1 to 2, I planned out an exercise. No, I had to write from 1 to 1:15, from 1:15. Now, come on, I can't, I'm in the process of thinking. So at one point I wrote down, you know, wasted X number of hours today clocking my time in 15-minute increments. That's just moronic. So I think that's the kind of stuff that we carry the scars of from corporate life. But there's lots of stuff around corporate life that works. It's just, as you said, it's the people.
It's the people, yeah, and it is idiotic tracking things at that level, and you know. It is something that I have got into the habit of doing, you know, starting off from when I started being back in the kind of VA mode, you know, you're tracking your time because you're billing people by your time. So, but I always say to people, I don't obsessively track it down to the second or the minute. Rubbish. You know, oh, well, okay, I'll track my time, but then you forget to hit stop, or phone goes, or something happens, and you look and think, oh, no, I know I didn't spend an hour and a half on that because it's right. Okay, let's change it. It was about 45 minutes. Done. And that's what I say to people, even, you know, them days. I'm not ripping you off, but I am not tracking by the second, because it's pointless. There's got to be that trust. And all we're doing here is to get an indication of where you're spending your time. And even back down to things like trying to improve your productivity, estimating time for planning. go and look at any of these kind of like life hack kind of articles and websites. What do they all say? Track your time.
Right. Yeah, I think it really does come down to the word that we were using a lot was mindfulness.
Mindfulness, yes.
And I just did a half-day event called the Confidence Conference, and the presentation that I made was the end of self-doubt. And one of the very first step in how I broke through the chains of this self-doubt and lack of confidence in myself was I first had to develop this awareness and become mindful of the thoughts that I was thinking, the actions I was taking. And the same thing happened with me with my time. As soon as I really I'll just give you a crazy example from podcasting. I had to really focus in on how much time I was wasting waiting for uploads and downloads. Right?
Yeah.
If you don't have efficient equipment,
you waste a massive amount of time on that. Yeah,
that's exactly right. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about being mindful of, being aware, just plugging into all the messages that you're getting and going, oh, I'm sorry, I have to upgrade my internet package because my time is money and I can't have my machines clogged up uploading download. That's crazy.
Yeah, I did the same last year. I've upgraded to super fast broadband, and now, videos go up to YouTube like that. Audio, it's exactly right. Otherwise, you're waiting, and then you get bored, and then you go and do something else, and then you forget that you're still waiting for. And then you've wasted an hour. And it was literally something for 5 minutes. It's
easily. Yeah. So you have to make sure that you've got, the carpenters talk about this, right? Using the right tool for the job. You've got to make sure that you have the right equipment, first of all, that it's all working, but that you're not paying for things that are way above your needs and your revenue, that you're really going with what you need right now at the time. So one of the other things that we were talking about was the issue of, and I'm going to ask you to reveal some stuff here. You were talking about, and this is a challenge that so many of us can relate to, I know, which is why I wanted to bring it up. You talked about the challenge of getting your own projects done, making a shift in your business, getting a niche more well-defined. You were nailing your client work, and obviously you have your son, so you can't just neglect them, right? So you're getting your son's things done, being active in his life, but your business was suffering. Can you talk a little bit more about that epiphany and how you managed to get yourself on track really literally, how did you start arranging your schedule? Because I think that's interesting to be able to make time for that.
So as you say, I've always been good at deadlines for my clients and, prioritizing that this needs doing. So that was fine. I was always on top of that. And as you say, I have a son and he's got his schedule of things and he, needs lots of time and support and, we spend time together. And then when I moved back over to England from France, it was like, hey, I can have a life again now. Yeah, so let's get involved in all these kind of activities and so on. And and then the kind of first year, it was definitely, okay, I'm getting re-established back in England. I'm doing those tasks. Right. And then I started to think, hang on, I want to move away from the kind of, not the hourly, the kind of hourly work and direct client work and stuff off, which although I really enjoy, I kind of, you can't scale it. We've had this conversation as well. So, but then I had this like, okay, I'm going to set up, I think it was online courses. I'm going to do this, do that. I had a whole plan of where it was all going to go. And it didn't go anywhere because I would like get all my client work done and then I would kind of make sure I'd got the life side of things, and I got involved in scouting, and then oh dear, the spare bit, which was supposed to be for me to do my business, it just didn't happen. And I thought, right, so the kind of 2015, I started. No, this cannot go on anymore. I've kind of had a year back in England. Let's settle down now and crack on, sort of thing. So So I really started to look, and I became aware. I looked at, what exactly I was doing, and became very aware of the fact that I was so excited about being involved in all these community projects and all the rest of it that I hadn't left any time for my strategic business things. And we take the that path of least resistance, do what's easy. So doing the client work was easy. Doing the kind of getting involved in scouts and parent governor, hey, that was enjoyable. Let's put some time to that. And then the kind of hard, let's think about our business kind of things, that just went by the wayside. So I became aware, the first step that you talked about.
Yeah.
Then I kind of dug around in my head and thought, how can I move this on? Given my background in project planning and I already was recording my time, and I am honest, and I will put down an hour wasted in Facebook and so on. It makes you focus.
Terrible. It's depressing.
So I was doing that as well. Like, okay, I know the facts. I know where I'm wasting my time. I know what I'm not doing. What am I going to do to fix this kind of issue? Then I started to look around for different ideas, and that's when I came across the 12-week yearbook that we were talking about. And I thought, oh, okay, I like reading books. Let's read this. Yes, this is really what I need. This is talking to me on so many levels. And again, it can seem, even the examples that they give can be quite corporate. But it's like, let's take those ideas and see how it's going to work for me. And do you know what, Winnie? It really has been, a really, really good thing for me to do. And I've embraced it. That was the other thing we were talking about. You just do it. Just try. Just try and do it and see what happens. And I've found it really, really useful doing that.
Yeah, and I appreciated you turning me on to that book. I have gotten more done in the first half of 2016 than I probably got done in the 15 years prior. And that's almost embarrassing to admit, but it's the truth. It really is. And a big part of it started in awareness, just like you. And then it then moved to getting really clear, which is what it sounds like you did too, getting clear about what you did want, right? And then actively working to get it. And there's no magic wand. You can't go, woo, this is what I want. I don't care what guru tells you that, oh, well, you just need to do this, right? Because that's the biggest pile of crap you have ever heard. Trust me. So it all starts with understanding yourself, recognizing where you're getting in your own way and what you really can do and what is not right for you now. So and then you sucked it up and you did the hard work, right?
Then I did it, and at the same time, I'd then decided that I was going to, I'd been doing a lot of the video marketing and the traffic guys and so on, and thought, no, this is changing. They'd sold the business, and there was a lot of external things going off. Right. It's time to move, time to change, and that's when I kind of really got discovered podcasting. I thought, oh, this is a good niche for me to get into. It's all of the things that I've been doing, but it's audio now instead of, well, I'm going to say messing around with video, but video's still involved anyway. So what wasn't there to like about it? And again, it's back down to that kind of deep niche. So, but I knew moving over was going to take all of the skills that I've been kind of trying to apply with this 12-week year thing. And certainly from the start of this year, I've got the new website sorted out and services and started, networking and, I'm picking up work and so on. And it has, greatly helped. And the other thing that I talked about in the episode was using Trello as well. Like you were talking about the lady, she didn't want to write anything down and didn't want anything in. Well, we've all used loads of different project management tools, and a lot of them are very corporate, because a corporate project can be incredibly complicated. Working in automotive production and banking, you have large projects with lots of people involved. The kind of projects that us as online entrepreneurs are working with, although they may seem like the biggest thing in the world, comparatively, they are quite straightforward and they are quite linear, and again, I'm sure people think, oh, I'm not being dismissive at all. It is just compared to a lot of kind of corporate projects and things I've been involved in before, then they're not as complicated. So something like Trello, I found, works beautifully well for the sorts of projects that that we work on. I know you use is it Basecamp? You use something like that. So
Basecamp. I also use Slack.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't used that, but I've heard people talk about it and so on. So yeah,
simple to use. Yeah.
That's it. Simple to use. If they're simple to use, you'll damn well use it. So what with recording your time, managing your projects with some kind of tool, and being aware and mindful of where your time goes, the mixture of those three things I have really kind of moved a lot of things forward. And people have commented me, crikey, you've got more stuff done now. It's great.
Yes. And you mentioned something I think that's really important, and actually had somebody criticize me about, but I think it was right for me. So, and I think there are a lot of other people that it's right for. One is this, okay, you're going to use a project management tool, whatever it is. I don't care if it's a calendar. This person said, oh, you're only using Basecamp because you used it at an agency you worked at. Yeah, that's right. I am. Because I don't want to invest too much energy. There's so much to learn. Right. So if I don't have to invest too much energy to learn a new project management tool, I've got more energy to dedicate to actually getting work done, for Pete's sake.
Exactly.
So
yes,
that I think is, yes, Basecamp costs money. It's not one of these free tools, but I think that, you're going to pay one way or the other, right? You're either going to pay in dollars or you're going to pay in your time and effort. And you have to decide where you're willing to make the investment. And I think that using something that is familiar to you is going to speed up that learning process. Let's see. Gail, we have some questions from Gail. Thank you, Gail. Gail loves my glasses. Thank you. One of my little quirky things, I love to, I have to wear readers, of course. And when I'm working on the computer. So I go to this particular shop and I buy these 99-cent. So I always have these fun, different colors. So I was going to wear blue because then, but I decided to be brave and wear red.
Yeah, red ones.
So Trello, Trello, is a visual project management tool. And at Susan's show notes, the show notes for Susan's episode, which you can find at theletstalktechshow.com/getstuffdone1, the number 1. I have this resource that Susan has offered. So you can go right to, just click that link, and she's got some examples for you of using Trello, and it's really awesome. Slack is a sort of a project management tool. It is a conversation, a sharing tool. I'm going to call it a collaboration tool.
It's like a collaboration tool, isn't it? Yeah,
it's really what
Trello,
it is.
Trello can do that as well.
Yeah. So one of the other pieces of advice Susan made in her episodes was to get out of project management in your inbox.
Inbox.
And when she said that, I thought, oh my God, that is so true. It's a nightmare. You're sending these emails and then they don't go through, and then you get it late, and then you have to find it in your overflowing spam, and where is this thing? So the cool thing about Slack and Trello is that it's like Skype or Twitter, where you've just got this ongoing chat. And you can organize it however way you want. I use hashtags. We use hashtags. I use this with my designer. So when we want to search for conversation, we search around the hashtag. And the one thing that I love, because I have ADHD, Gail, you might be able to relate. I have ADHD. So it's easy for me to lose things because I get distracted. So when we're working on a project, I know that I only have to go to Slack. Yeah. All the messages are there. All of of the documents and the images, the drafts are all right there. So it makes me feel good because I feel so much more organized.
Exactly. And Trello is exactly the same. That's basically you're organizing lists with cards in there. And each card you can have comments on there, backwards and forwards. You can attach documents, same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you get notifications as well. So every time something happens, you can get a notification. You can also, if you're in your email box and you have had an email, think, oh, that's relevant to the project. You can email it to a card, and it creates a card in Trello for
that's
you.
Nice.
So you've got no excuse. You do not have to be in your inbox trying to manage your project. So that's, a real thing.
Yeah, that's great.
Really handy. Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to give Trello a try again. At one point, it was just too visually disorienting for me. And that's part of this, is you want to try a few out. And you want to, again, back to awareness and mindfulness, what works for you and what doesn't. Yeah. And Slack it's like Skype, it's like Twitter, and all this stuff is right here. So it had no learning curve.
Well, I think Trello, there's not really a learning curve. One thing I did do for people based on this podcast was the thing is, when you sign up for Trello, you're faced with an empty board, obviously, because there's nothing there, is there? So I've set up a small little video, just 5-6 minutes, explaining how to use it. And then I've set up a board that people can copy based on the 12-week year idea.
Nice. Okay, great.
So there's one where you've got your vision, your goals, your actual tactics that you're going to use, and then how I've actually set up Trello to track that on a weekly basis. So all my goals, how I set up labels and colours. So there's a board to copy, and then there's the video that I did I split it into 3, talking about how I actually use it. So, that if somebody's interested in this 12-week year, go and read the book. And Trello, then they've got something to copy, and then you can copy that and then put your own things in there. So just as a helper to get people, going with it. That's what I've done.
That's great. And I will have that in the show notes. This episode is going to wind up on the letstalktechshow.com, and it will have its own little set of show notes. And I love the 12-week year too. I thought it was a great way to get your head around achieving things. And you, again, just made a great point in the original episode at the letstalktechshow.com/getstuffdone1. She talked about how, you set these goals and you want to do it by the end of the year. And this is so like corporate life, right? How many of us, management by objectives, got these big goals, and you have your bonus attached to it, right? And then you forget about it until the quarter's almost over, and then you're scrambling to get it done, or the year's almost over. And you better get this done because your bonus is attached to it. Now, if it was that important, you would have been working on it all year. It's not really that important if you're scrambling. And if you can manage to get it done instantly, how important,
how valuable. Yeah,
right. Right. Yeah. But we all played that game, right? Just to get your bonus out of your corporate employer. One thing that I would like to talk about, and is what I mentioned right when we first started to turn on the recording. Gail, I remembered to turn on the recording, so yay for me. Is this issue about budgeting time. So you'll be so proud of me, Susan. I put a big year calendar up in front of me on my wall, and I blocked out almost all of my big projects. Right. So I have the show blocked out every Tuesday right through the rest of the year. I'm going to be doing something called the Confidence Builder series, which is the third Thursday of every month. So I blocked that out. And you'll be extra proud of me because I blocked out my trips home.
Good.
No more.
Very important.
Yeah. No more will I miss a trip home. That kills me. But anyway, but now what I have to do, and today I had a planning session with my accountability partner, and I'll explain what an accountability partner is in just a second. But we just kicked off our mid-year planning, right? We're both going to make sure we get the second half of the year achieving our goals. And I said to her, I have all this stuff on the board. I hope I have enough hours, right? Already. That's what I told her. I said, my year is booked. And now it's a matter of making sure that I've actually haven't overbooked myself, right, with the time. So one of the things that I mentioned in the episode, in the interviews that we did, was that the rule of thumb, and you probably know this too since you spent some time in training. As a trainer, we use the rule of thumb that 8 hours for every hour that you're going to spend in the classroom, it takes 8 hours of development, right? So if you've got a course that you know is going to be, say, 23 hours long, you need at least 24 to 30 hours to get it done. Right? Simple rule of thumb. It never works out that way, right? Because you just overbook yourself. So can you, like, is there some rule of thumb that you use when you are, like, let's say you want to learn a new piece of technology, right? Because so many people are trying to use this tool and use that tool and they make themselves crazy. Do you have any sense of how long it should take? I know it's hard to say the average person to learn something.
Ooh.
I know it's a hard question, isn't it?
Shall I get my piece of string out?
I know.
Well, I think for me to learn a new thing, it's back down to breaking it down into small chunks. You know, and another thing that's just repeated so many times, but it really is true. First of all, trying to get it down into some manageable pieces. Most of the kind of online tools we've got now at our disposal, you know, for me, kind of 2 or 3 hours of poking about is usually enough to be able to get going with it, know where it all is. But I'm one of those people who can look at things and kind of know how it works. And as I try to explain to people, most of these tools can only really work in a certain way. So an email management system. So we've got MailChimp and we've got Constant Contact and loads of others I can't think of off the top of my head. But truly, they can only work in so many ways because you've still got lists of people and campaigns to apply to those lists of people. So as long as you've got the general idea of what, say, an email management system is trying to do, doesn't take that long to poke about and think, oh, that's how I set up a list. And the screens are slightly differently and some are laid out better than others. But generally, it can only work in a certain way. But I know that because I've written systems and I know that there's only certain ways you can make things work. So that's a confidence thing, isn't it? You know,
it is.
Yeah. So I've got the confidence. I think it doesn't really matter if I've never seen this thing before. Give me 2 or 3 hours and I've got it sorted.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Skill that I do have, but to come back to the, you know, how long does it take to do things? It does come back to tracking our time as a way of learning how to come up with a rule of thumb of how long something takes. So you know, for a course, it's kind of a 1-to-8 ratio. There's certain tasks that I do for, you know, one particular client. I know it will take half an hour, 10 minutes, 2 hours, 4 hours. And so when I'm blocking out my week, then I know with those tasks, where's it going to go? If you're going to be writing a blog post and you've got to do a bit of research, it could be 3 or 4 hours. You know, do that bit of research, come out with your point of view, where you're going with it, getting the words done. You know, I'll make it some kind of like a graphic as well, you know. So so now I book out my, you know, when I'm scheduling my week, I take my kind of 12-week year week, and then I take each of those items and put it in my Outlook calendar and block out my daily, you know, my weekly calendar. So blog posts, I put down 3 hours. Client work, batches of, you know, 2 hours here, 3 hours there. Website updates, well, I'm going to do all morning today and all morning tomorrow, and you know, so again, it's your time's got to be scheduled out into segments with appointments, and then Outlook goes ding, come on, get writing your blog post for this week.
That's good. Yeah.
Go and have lunch. So forget.
Right. Yeah. I think you've made a couple of really good points here. First of all, again, we're back to mindfulness, back to awareness. Do you learn tech easily or not? And I think when we leave corporate lives, because I'm not a tech person, I'm really not. I've only gotten
says the person who hosts the who
runs a show called Let's Talk Tech, and I've only gotten comfortable with it because I was forced to. You know, when I was a manager, I had people I called. I had a whole department of people who would come and fix things. When I was the director of HR, I had a whole team of people who would fix things that I had problems with. But when I'm out on my own, I was under the desk putting the computer together myself, and you have to figure it out. So I think that when you leave your corporate life, you may or may not have a lot of experience dealing with this technology and with learning. So first of all, give yourself some grace.
Yes.
You're brilliant at whatever your role is and was. I was talking to a friend of mine who called me after the show went live and did so well in its launch. And he sold his company. He was the founder, CEO of a company. He sold it for tens of millions of dollars. And he's nobody's idea of dumb, right? Mm-hmm. He said, you know what? I feel so stupid. Because here I am trying to learn lead pages and ClickFunnels and all this stuff. He said, I had people to do this.
Yes.
So you really do need, I think, to give yourself more time than you think and give yourself permission to have a learning curve as you are learning a whole new language of online marketing and online business. The other thing that I heard in what you were saying was, take notes, for Pete's sake, right? Because this knowledge-based stuff, it really does. Taking notes helps you learn. You read that knowledge-based article or you watch that video, then you leave it and you go, what was that again? So print them out. Yeah. If you have that ability,
print it out and write on it. And I think as we discussed in the part one was it's been proved, the actual physical act of writing.
Yep.
Rather than typing, if you write things on paper with a pen, it goes into your head a lot better, and you do learn things. So, and there was something I was just going to say, and I've lost it. It'll come back to me.
That kind of activity, anytime you can layer senses into a learning process, you're going to anchor the learning in you better. So yeah,
exactly. Oh, I've remembered now. It was back to estimating, and the thing there is what we typically do. And again, this has been proved by different sorts of research that we tend to overestimate the amount of time small tasks take, and we underestimate the time that large tasks take. And that's kind of like a human nature thing. Again, be aware of it. And so even when we're planning kind of large scale projects, and even now when I'm doing my kind of smaller client projects and so on, it's almost think about how long something's going to take you, and then kind of add some more hours on and then double it, so you've got this like massive kind of, we used to call it like a fiddle factor, because you will always, for large things, underestimate the amount of time. But again, to help you get improved with that is to write it down, track it, because over time you will find that we are, on the online world, we're still doing a lot of the same kind of tasks. We are setting up lead pages, we are setting up our email campaign, we are recording a video, we are planning a podcast, we are recording a podcast episode, etc., etc. So you will find, if you start back to tracking your time again and being mindful, it feeds back into your planning process, and you will get better at doing it. But there's no magic wand.
Right. You've got to give yourself grace and permission. And I think the other thing that I hear, and that I was really thinking about while I was getting ready this morning, was that we need help. Right? We need help. So we've really got to create some kind of budget so that you can get help, because I was watching a presentation by Mary Smith, who is a Facebook social media expert. And I think it was the end of last year. And even she said, get help, people, because nobody can do everything that's expected to be done today. It's impossible. So I amen that. One other tip that I give people all the time is, and I'll be interested to see if this is how you work too, Susan, I have 2 monitors. I wish I had a third. Do you have one monitor or 2?
One. It's a big one.
I'll tell you what, if you got 2, you would probably like blow away the stuff that you could get accomplished. I don't know how to work on one monitor anymore. To me, having 2 monitors has upped my efficiency so much, because again, I have ADHD, I have memory issues. So on one monitor, this is especially true when I'm trying to learn something. On one monitor, I will have the tool I'm trying to learn and the how-to, right? The knowledge base, the training. Then on the other monitor, I'll be actually logged in, and I'm reading or watching, and then I go do. And then I read it and I go do. And to me, that just really ups how fast I learn, because I'm able to implement instantly and get that reinforcement. So that is a really good point, actually. I mean, I would just tend to do that with different windows being open, but it's back to the training kind of background. Is yes, the more you can engage different senses and reinforcement at that point in time, the more you will actually learn. And even back to the 12-week yearbook and other books, people will say, right, stop, go and do that exercise. How many people really do? But if you do stop and go and do it, you really get the benefit out of it. You do.
So much, yeah.
You do. It anchors that learning in you.
Always.
So there's one other big thing that I want to talk about right before we wrap up here today. And because Susan and I, we can go on for days. We're just, we love talking about technology and productivity, and off we go. But I think the biggest thing that I got out of that episode that we did, and the thing that I continue to get out of my own reflection and awareness, is the problem with setting boundaries.
Yeah.
I have people who will call me and who will say that, oh, I just need a couple minutes of your time. And a couple minutes to them is an hour. I mean, it just stretches into an hour. And this is something that, as I mentioned, we talked about earlier when we started. I have a long drive coming up. I have 16 hours in my car, 2 8-hour trips. So a lot of thinking time. And I know that saying no continues to be something that I have to work on, and maintaining these boundaries. What tips do you have? Because you've got, such a busy life with your son and your embroidery and activities that you're in, all take time. And then you've got this growing business. Can you give any tips on how you manage to have really good boundaries?
I think it's back to confidence again. Is that over time, I've learned to have the confidence that it's okay to say no. Now, I'm not saying I'm very good at it.
It takes practice. It's a muscle.
It's practice, and I am really trying hard. And I have, kind of gracefully backed out of things that really I shouldn't have got involved with, because I didn't have the time to do it in the first place. So yeah, it's having the confidence to say no, and also drawing those boundaries. So that, for example, weekends are weekends. I don't work weekends, and even if you think, well, there'll be some emails sitting there, I can sort them out on Monday lunchtime after I've got after I've done my planning and all that, and that makes you sound really awful, like you don't care about the people in it. And I certainly do care about the people who've emailed me, but it's you have to be mindful of time thieves, and letting everything else dictating where you're going, and you're the one who has to dictate where you're going, not let everybody else and their agenda kind of change yours. So confidence really. And yes, people say no is enough. You don't have to justify the no. Well, I do always feel as if I have to justify that no, but you can still be kind of graceful and kind and help people and point them in somebody else's direction. There is times when you just can't do it anymore, and I have started doing that much more now. I will say I can't do every scout session. Right. I can't set this up for the Embroiderers Guild. I can't. It's not that I don't want to, it's that I physically have no more time left in the day. I never watch telly. I don't watch TV. That's the biggest time thief. I stopped that years ago. So it's like,
you'll be amazed how productive you can be when you don't watch TV. That must be how Ben Franklin invented all of those inventions, because they didn't have any TV back then. So
that's why people did embroidery, and then they had to go to bed because they didn't have any light.
Right. But I think that this, you really did nail it. It does come down to, again, it comes down to mindfulness, and then the confidence and taking action, because I recognized that, I have a need to be liked. We all have a need to be liked to a degree, right? So I would say yes too fast. Mm-hmm. And even just saying, I need to check my schedule, I can't commit yet, that at least gives me the buffer to get away from the person. Mm-hmm. And give me the time to really say, to tune in again, to get that awareness and say, okay, do I really have the time to do this? Do I even want to do it? Because how many times do we say yes because we feel like we've been guilted into it?
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah.
Easier to say, sorry, don't have the time. I'm overscheduled now. You don't need to say I'm not doing it because I feel like sitting around eating bonbons on Friday night rather than working with you, or that kind of thing. But I think it comes back to being aware, being mindful of where your time is best used, and then developing the courage and the confidence to say, sorry, I'm busy.
I think the other aspect is, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but you can also train your kind of clients and people that you do work with or associate with. You can kind of train them that actually you're not going to respond instantly. If they kind of respect the fact that you maybe deal with your email in 2 lumps in the day, and they're not accustomed to you replying instantly about things that don't need an instant reply. If it's an inquiry that's going to take thought, or looking for a meeting on, so on, then don't train your clients and people to expect an instant response. And I know we've got all this technology around us which revolves around instant response. Switch all of those damn bells and things off, because you there's really, truly not very many things that are so urgent that you need to drop everything to go and check a status update in Facebook, for example.
Yeah. Unless you truly are a fireman.
Unless you are a fireman.
An emergency room doctor, or, where you really are saving lives.
Different story, but for us.
Right. When I got promoted to training manager at the casino where I worked, that was back in the beeper days, so I know it makes me sound like a dinosaur.
Tannoys. We had tannoys at Nissan, even worse. Tannoy boys, we used to call them. They used to get shouted at from one end of the factory to the other. Oh, it's awful.
My boss told me that I had to go down to purchasing and pick up my beeper, and I said, no, I'm not going. And she was quite the monster, so to have me actually have the nerve to talk back to her was amazing. I'm not going. I said, who's going to have an educational emergency?
Yes.
Really? What? You must teach me something now. Come on, nobody does that. Why would I have to carry a beeper? I'm just not that important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she said, yeah, I guess you're right. And I never did. I was the only manager at my level who who got away without carrying a beeper.
Yeah. It's very true. Yeah.
So I think that it's one, thinking that we have to, right? putting that burden on ourselves. And then, not having these strong boundaries. So I think that this has been, as our other episode was, great information. And it really comes down to its core is developing awareness and mindfulness of your time and how you work best.
Yeah.
And then having the confidence and the courage to draw that strong boundary so you're not then feeling abused.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Very
let
true.
me just share with you how you can get a hold of Susan. She is on Facebook, right? Facebook.com/ it's susan.l.weeks.
Yes, that's right.
Because I looked it up.
Good, because I'd forgotten.
Her website is podcastprogress.com.
That's right, yeah.
She has some fantastic samples for you to get started with using Trello if you would like to do that. So you want to go to podcastprogress.com/ Trello examples. It's with an S, right? More than one example?
Yes, more than
yes.
So it's TRELLEXAMPLES.
And I only did that just to get her to spell, because I know that people have said how much they love listening to you talk. So and she's always sounds so good. Of course, anybody from the UK, you can listen and talk for hours. So if you want to hear the episodes, the podcast episodes that we did, again, it was one long episode that I split into two. You can go to theletstalktechshow.com / getstuffdone1, and then the letstalktechshow.com / getstuffdone2, the number 2. I will have that episode up not long after we're done here. And this video will live on Blab for at least a little while. Then it will show up on the show's website as well as on the show's YouTube channel. And for the other things that we mentioned, the Confidence Builder series is starting up. You can go to confidencebuildersseries.com and find out all about that free training, third Thursday of every month. And the techshowpodcast.com is the show on iTunes. So you can subscribe, download, rate, and review. Would be nice if you liked what you heard today. And you can also sign up at theletstalktechshow.com and become a fan of the show and get all the free resources and stuff that we've got there for you. So thank you very much, Susan. Again, sorry.
It's been a pleasure.
You're on a little bit longer than I had originally thought, but so nice to spend time with you. Of course, because everything, right, just takes longer than we think it will.
Exactly, yes.
So have a great weekend. This has been Winnie Anderson for Let's Talk Tech, hoping that you do not let tech stand in your way or anything else. So bye for now, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
See ya. I'm going to stop the recording. No, I don't. I'm just going to X out. I'm going to X you out first.
Okay. Bye.
And now I'm going to X me out. See everybody. Bye, Gail.